Okay then, so how good actually are these Chelsea players at the moment? Yo, what's happening, friends, and welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. As always, mate, I do hope you're doing well. I really do hope that. And not really a Chelsea news today, more of a statistical deep dive into our current players. And indeed, Emmanuel Omega's in there, so a player that will be joining us in the summer. And of course, there's big talk around Chelsea, the Chelsea fans. Are we okay for a striker between the likes of Delap, Joao Pedro, and Omega coming in? Is Gu gonna go out on loan? Is Shimoeka gonna be given a chance? Are we okay? Well, we'll look into some stats and we're gonna get into it in today's video. I'm also going to do some winger statistical comparisons, show some data between Alejandro Garnacho, who of course is the talk of the town in the Chelsea fan base after some good performances, perhaps winning some people over now, looking like he's a hard worker, runs very fast, and apparently, reportedly, is training very hard. So we're going to do some data comparison stuff between Garnacho, Neto, and Estevao. I've done some before on Jamie Gittins, but I want a bigger sample size in the Premier League first before we truly evaluate what that young man's doing for Chelsea. But in the meantime, that's what we're getting into today. So thank you so much for joining me. If you want to support the content, you are welcome to. All you got to do is like and subscribe. There's been a great momentum here on the channel recently, which I'm very grateful for. So if you want to be part of that, consider subscribing, hitting the bell, dropping a like on the video, hyping it up, dropping those hype points, sharing, whatever you want to do to help me out. Yeah, and I truly feel like we've cultivated a great community here on Football Therapy. Down in the comments, the subscribership, good people, become one of the good people. All right then, let's get into it. So we're starting off with some statistical comparisons of wingers on understat.com. I wanted to show you this spider graph here of Alejandro Garnacho and superstar Brazilian wonder Estevao. Both have played pretty much the same minutes. Alejandro has played 358 minutes. Estevao has played 341 minutes. This, of course, is in the Premier League. They both have the same goals per 90. The XG per 90 is a lot higher with Estevao. He's going towards goal a lot more, thinking direct, where perhaps Alejandro Garnacho is thinking, how can I assist? How can I assist? And as you can see, assists per 90 in the bottom right part of this graph here, Garnacho is out by himself with 0.5 assists per 90. That's an assist every other game, and his expected assist is about the same. So is Estevao, really. So what that is telling you, actually, with Estevao is he should have more assists, because the bottom peak of this spider graph is essentially both the wingers are creating the same value of chances, but Garnacho is having his chances finished, so he gets the assists more than Estevao. So really, actually, Estevao's statistics are pretty darn impressive. They're both similar for key passes per 90, but in the build-up, Estevao is amazing in terms of how he helps the attack. Now, these two statistics, XG build-up per 90, XG chain per 90, without going too complicated, is basically a way of quantifying how much you're helping the attack that becomes to a shot, you know? So whether it's like the pre-assist or a dribble or how important your transition up the pitch was, it's how important you are to helping that attack. That's probably the best way to explain it. Shape for both of these players is pretty good, but Estevao is out there doing craziness. Really impressive. I wanted to compare these two players because they played pretty much the same amount of minutes in the Premier League. Now, of course, they're both young. Estevao's like 3 years younger, but Garnacho is still very young. He does have Premier League experience, but he also has the harrowing nightmare of his Manchester United experience. Now, I'm not going to say it's just the club. It could definitely be him as well. It would be unfair of me or churlish to say it's all Man United. Though we do have a huge body of evidence of lots of players leaving and doing well. Anthony, Rashford, Garnacho, etc. Oh, Scott McTominay, he won MVP in the Scudetto as soon as he left. But to be fair, he wasn't like a problem player over there. But yeah, clearly it's not the most fertile ground for nurturing young talent. They're doing well now, Man United, but they're doing well now with the likes of, you know, Bruno being influential, with players like Cunha and Mbeumo, who are between the age of 25 and 30 years old. Basically plug and play players. They don't seem to be the most fertile ground for nurturing young players. Another example would be, you know, the ostracizing of Kobbie Mainoo, and he might be sold, which which would, a lot of United fans wouldn't be happy about. But we're talking about Chelsea here in today's video, and there is a lot of positivity around Alejandro Garnacho. It's worth doing this comparison because there's huge fanfare for Estevao Willian, not just with Chelsea fans, but Brazil, the Brazil national team fans. Of course, the nation are all watching him with very keen eyes, and indeed, perhaps the neutrals are quite excited to watch him at Chelsea. Perhaps the less Chelsea-hating fans, you can see this kid's very exciting. But Garnacho quietly going under the radar, going about his business, looking very impressive, a crazy speed on transition, and his stats, the shape of that spider graph, are pretty strong, and these are the kind of things I'd want to monitor throughout the season, check them out in a couple of months' time, compare with other Chelsea players, and indeed other players in the Premier League, and see how they're looking in the numbers, because, we talk about the eye test all the time. When players do something exciting, we go, oh, that was good. That looked good. It felt like he had a good game. But every now and again, you know me, guys, I like to drop into the numbers and try and quantify what I'm seeing statistically. Nothing sexier than numbers, am I right? Now I'm going to jump over to another graphic from Data MB comparing Estevao, Garnacho, but also I threw Pedro Neto in there, who's been playing pretty well for Chelsea. As you can see here, another spider graph, all represented by different colours. Garnacho in blue, Neto in red, Estevao in yellow. Now, this is a pretty healthy shape graph for all these players. No major flaws, you'd have to say. They're all really good at dribbling, carrying, crossing. Key passes, it looks like Garnacho is out ahead, followed by Estevao, but perhaps Pedro Neto is working more, doing more pressing, getting up and down, less time to do key passing. And of course, assists, Garnacho's up there at the top as well. Garnacho's got a really strong shape. They all have their own benefits here. Pedro Neto with the non-penalty goals being the most, but the shape of the spider graph's really healthy. The non-penalty goals, expected goals plus expected assists, is where you see Estevao break out by himself. But these are all healthy indicators of performances from all three of these wingers. Like I said, I've left out Jamie Gittins for the moment because this is looking at Premier League numbers, and of course we've seen mostly Garnacho. We might have even seen Pedro Neto play on the left a little bit as well, so we'll see more of Gittins. He's definitely a different profile of player to Garnacho, something I've spoken about before at length, but I wanted to compare these three players, and of course the most exciting for the moment is Estevao, especially if you look at that not expected goals and expected assists, ahead of Garnacho, ahead of Pedro Neto. Very, very important, very exciting, and we do wonder, how good can this kid be? Right, one more stats presentation on the Estevao. I'm going to look at scouting reports on FBref now in this video. What I do is I go on their scouting report, I look at their strengths so we can see what they're doing well. It's important because then you're like, okay, you can decide what's missing in those strengths yourself. Then I want to speak a little bit about this philosophical question: should he be starting? Shouldn't he be starting? Because I've heard that talked about over and over in the Chelsea fan base over different podcasts, YouTube channels, or across social media. But let's hop over and check out his scouting report. So it's important to say this isn't his time in Brazil. This is 570 minutes played across all competitions. So this is, the big five leagues. So he's playing in the Premier League, Champions League, and if he's played in the Cup or whatever. But I think it's Europe and the Premier League, which makes 570 minutes in total. Now, this is versus other attacking midfielders and wingers, and I must say, this is absolutely mental. Of course, these are his strengths, right? So I'm going from the best things down, but to be in the 99th percentile, which is the top 1% of all wingers in the highest level of the game in Holland, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 metrics to be in the top 1% as an 18-year-old is quite frankly insane. That is insane, guys. And that is, of course, expected goals in the 99th percentile, non-penalty expected goals, non-penalty expected goals and assists. He doesn't pass offside. His shot creating actions from take-ons, which is dribbling and doing something that ends up in a shot, is in the top 1%. His goal creating actions is in the top 1%. Successful take-ons is in the top 1%. Hold on, 7.5, that's 7.6 dribbles per 90. That is Jeremy Doku on like super form numbers. Like, Eden Hazard used to do like 4 or 5 per game, and he was like known as like this crazy dribbler. Basically 7.6. I mean, that's unsustainable the more minutes he plays. Oh, sorry, but that's attempted. So completed 3.6. There you go. So if Hazard was doing 4 per game, he's doing 3.63. So there you go. And it carries into the penalty area. Like, this is all the top 1%. Look at the rest of it for yourselves. I'm trying to think how much I'm going to put in the edit in terms of what I'm going to crop off, but all the 99s, 98, his pass completion is good. His expected assists is in there. 97th percentile, takes corners, and just absolutely incredible. I did see some stuff on social media going around that indicated he was in like some sort of stratosphere of his own in terms of stats per 90, and of course this is what this is. You know, what are you doing? What is averaging per 90 minutes? But he still played. This is 570 minutes across the Premier League and the Champions League. They are high-level competitions. The highest. In fact, they are the 2 highest level of competition. Granted, he might be deployed, maybe not against, came off the bench against Liverpool, the champions, didn't start. I don't think he started against Bayern Munich. Forgive me if he did, but I have a feeling he didn't. Do you know what I mean? But he is still playing at the highest level of competition. This kid has just touched down in Europe, not just England, in Europe. He can't speak English yet. He's 18. He's quite slight and petite, and he's doing a madness. This, of course, is creating a big discussion, saying that he's too good to ignore. You have to start him because he's this good, because he's performing at this level. You have to keep playing him. But of course, there is also the argument that Maresca is handling this absolutely perfectly. To such a degree that when he does come on, he looks this good because he's bringing him on in certain game states and circumstances where the opposition have played a lot. They've got heavy load from the game and essentially tied legs, and Estevao has the opportunity to come on and basically express himself. You can make an argument for both sides. You can say, yeah, he's only 18, he needs to be eased in. Less I heard Liam Twomey on the Straight Out of Cobham Athletic podcast speaking about how Eden Hazard, by the time he arrived at Chelsea, he was 21, I think. Of course, he was doing Estevao things for Lille, winning the league, like carrying the team to a league title when he was 18. He got kicked a lot in France, but nowhere near as much as he would in the Premier League. And by the time, he got to Chelsea and was seasoned and eased in, he could take the punishment. I thought it was a great point from Twomey. It's the sort of same thing with Estevao. Estevao's particularly slight as well. He's quite a small kid at the moment. So I'm not saying he needs to bulk up because, look at Modric and other petite players, but I do think he needs to be hardened, and you don't just throw him in. You basically have to be careful because we have something insanely special here, and you don't want to mess it up in any way possible. You want to ease him in perfectly. You want to absolutely optimize the integration into not just the Chelsea team, but the club, the culture, the country, the media, the pressure, everything. He needs to settle in and be well supported and integrated appropriately. And to be honest, as much as fans have an opinion, people behind the scenes, and this is not just Maresca with his management, there'll be specialists like liaison people that are looking after his mental well-being and integration and, all this family life. They will know how the best way to treat Estevao and integrate him into the Chelsea team. And because things are going so well, they have my trust. I'd love to see him start, and if he does start, it means they think he's ready. But I'd be mindful to criticize this for the moment. Cool, so we're going to end the video talking about strikers and Omega. I'm going to look at something from TalkSport, actually, read an article, and we're going to look at his numbers, Emmanuel Omega, because it's been a huge talking point in the Chelsea strikers. Of course, Liam Delap, we haven't seen the best of him yet, but I'm sure we will at Chelsea. I think we can all accept that Nicholas Jackson's time at Chelsea's done. I think the relationship with Maresca is broken down, and Chelsea will look to sell him on in the summer for a profit, whether that's to Bayern Munich or just another European club. Now, João Pedro has done well. I think he scored in consecutive games for Chelsea, but he did go on a 10-game streak without a goal. He was taking no shots. Now, he's a great attacker to have in the team, and he will link up well with the other wingers, and indeed strikers, because maybe he should be playing off a striker. So I do want to speak about Emmanuel Omega, because he is joining Chelsea in the summer, and he reportedly is joining to play. So before we look at his scouting report, of course, he's had a good time at Strasbourg, a top 5 league. I want to read this article from TalkSport. Future Chelsea star Omega has been backed to be a major hit after receiving his first senior call-up to the Netherlands. The 22-year-old will join Chelsea, of course, from sister club Strasbourg in the summer. Maresca is still sort of waiting to find this frontman focal point of his attack. João Pedro is more suited to a number 10 role, it says here. The Brazilian scored in back-to-back Premier League games, there you go, but it was a 10-game drought before that. His chief competition, Liam Delap, is yet to score since returning from his 2-month injury, while he got sent off against Wolves last month. Omega also started the season with a hamstring issue, but has picked up exactly where he left off under Liam Rosinia this term. The Dutchman has netted 6 goals and registered 2 assists in his first 8 games of the season for Strasbourg, which included a double in Sunday's impressive 2-0 win over Lille. Yeah, congratulations to Emmanuel Omega, who has been called up to the Netherlands national team. Of course, huge, behemoth of a national team in terms of attackers historically. So that's really good news. I mean, he's still young. He's 22. So lots and lots of opportunity for him there if he continues to play well for his club and country. Perhaps more and Chelsea fans over time will be convinced, yeah, you know what? This guy can be a striker for Chelsea. But I must say, at the moment, I just don't know. I've seen him clips of goals or whatever. I think I've watched the odd Strasbourg game just out of interest because of the link to Chelsea, and I've seen him play. But obviously, the young Argentine boy is absolutely tearing it up. He's got some insane stats as well, but he's not a player that we've bought yet. Anyway, but let's have a look at Emmanuel Omega's scouting report on FBref, because I want to see what his strengths are, because I did look at Delap's, and Delap's aren't great, and I guess it's obviously over the last 365 days in the Premier League, which of course goes to Ipswich. They got relegated. He went off the boil, and of course he's been injured for Chelsea this season, so he's got some strong stuff to that, but he's really good at bringing the team up the pitch and shot creating actions and progression, getting your team up the pitch, but not so much goal scoring in terms of the sample size. So let's learn a little bit about Omega and look at his scouting report. All right, so off the bat, a very, very strong metric you want to see. The 99th percentile, the top 1% for non-penalty expected goals / shots. So he is a striker who's going to take a shot at goal or get shot value at goal. Interestingly as well, he's very good at passing. His medium pass completion percentage is in the 99th percentile as well. So he is a super good passing striker, which Maresca will like. Now his non-penalty XG is in the 97th percent. Remember guys, that is the top 3% for all elite strikers across Europe, and he is a 22-year-old playing for Strasbourg in Ligue 1. So, this is coming up against your Barcelona strikers, your Bayerns, your Juves, other strikers that are playing in Premier League football or whatever. And his general pass completion is very good. He seems to be a really good passing striker, and indeed passes blocked, 97th percentile, and, he gets the odd assist as well, goals and shots. So this is interesting. He's a goal-scoring striker, which is precisely what we're probably lacking, but he's very good at passing a football as well, so maybe he's going to be good in the build-up and link play, though he will be looking to finish chances for Chelsea. Now with Omega, I'll be very keen to watch him, watch some of him this season, but keep an eye on the numbers and see what he's doing. So as we sort of develop, because we're still such a young team, we're such, in many ways, an unknown quantity, because you need to see how some young players develop, how they flourish, how they develop chemistry with each other, before you've got this fully crafted and molded team. And by all accounts, that is the plan. Young players will come, young players will go, and then the cream of the crop will stay, and you'll have presumably a really strong team of untouchables. That is the plan. But yeah man, so I wanted to check out the numbers, and I have done so. Let me know your thoughts. I'll be very interested in learning them. Let me know if you like these kind of statistical breakdown videos. I think it's kind of a fun thing to do over the international break personally. So if you agree, let me know down in the comments. Other than that man, thanks for joining me. Thank you for liking and subscribing to Football Therapy, and I hope to see you back here very soon.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me baby.